Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days in 5 minutes. Brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area, making sure your home looks good, works well, and can get through any adverse weather. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. So let's start with Hurricane Ian, front and center. And the eye of Ian crossed western Cuba and is emerging into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. You can see the eye a little ragged there, crossing the landmass in western Cuba, although it's rather flat, and the impact here is probably minimal. Whatever strength it may have lost by crossing land, it should quickly gain back as conditions continue to remain favorable. And there is rain that has expanded, that has moved into the southern half of Florida, particularly in southeast Florida and down into southwest Florida and the Keys, where we've seen some rather heavy downpours. And I can take you to the Key West radar. This is as of 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time. And you'll notice the bands of heavy rain coming into southeast and southwest Florida up from the south, and more bands to follow. And also on the lower left is where you can just start to see the eye emerge. You see it a bit better here on the southeast radar view. Well-defined eye now just about offshore Cuba, and the northern edge of the rain is running up the coast to about Vero Beach, Fort Pierce on the east side, and just north of Port Charlotte, Fort Myers, Port Charlotte on the west side. Nothing much going on in Tampa at the moment, and of course, once you go north of I-4 in Florida, it is absolutely quiet. Meanwhile, just wanted to give you a look here in the northeast because we still have this upper trough that's going to be coming in and bringing down cooler air and just basically dominating the weather for the rest of the week. A little bit of radar echoes aloft. None of this is reaching the ground. That's up in southeastern New England and over eastern Long Island. Just some clouds going through. And most of these showers that you see up to the north will stay to the north. Figured I have the radar. I might as well show you now what's happening. So let's take a look. This is the latest recon with the pressure down somewhere around 951, 952 millibars with a peak wind of 110 knots. This was measured earlier this morning at around 5 a.m., a little after 5 a.m., so roughly about 6:30 this morning. It's just 6:30 this morning, and we're waiting to see if there's a second fix now that has come up. This is at 8:41 Eastern Time, where we see the pressure down around maybe 952-ish, 953, and some peak winds up at about 90 knots. So this is where the center of Ian was still over land. The intensity guidance has this either as a Cat 3 or Cat 4 for the next 48 to 60 hours, and then starts to weaken it because by this point we're going to be seeing the impact along the Florida coast. The advisory at 8 a.m., 22.6 and 83.6 with top winds at 125, moving north at 12. You can see it's forecast to become a major hurricane as it approaches landfall. I'm thinking somewhere between, I'm going to give it a broad area here, Fort Myers to Tampa, somewhere in there. And my biggest concern here is going to be the fact that it's going to be slowing down to a crawl, and it may stall out right near the coast. So that could have big implications as far as tidal flooding is concerned on the west coast, as far as heavy rain is concerned across the state of Florida. And you see the future track takes it up into southeast Georgia and then into western North Carolina by early Sunday morning. I think it is going to be okay for the areas in the northern mid-Atlantic states in particular. Some of the heavy rains may eventually get up into Delaware, maybe even touching southern New Jersey briefly. But my guess is that it should stay to the south, at least based on what I'm looking at right now. And here are the hurricane forecast model tracks from the hurricane models. You see a couple of them take it in near Fort Myers. The majority of them are further north of Port Charlotte to about Tampa, and then gradually moving northward into eastern Georgia, western South Carolina, and then they sort of hook to the right from there because of what's going on in the upper air. And this is we've got the GFS here. We could take a look, and you'll notice from the last run off the west coast of Cuba, moves northward, then turns northeast, and then here we are. This is Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, 2 a.m. Thursday, 8 a.m. Thursday, 1 p.m. Thursday, 8 p.m. Friday. I mean, this thing is hardly moved in well over 48 to 60 hours. It just sits there. Now, while it's sitting there, if it's, with the center right on shore, part of the circulation's over the open waters of the Gulf, part of it is over land. So we're talking about very slow weakening. And also, again, in that southeast quadrant, this continuous push of southerly winds is going to be a big issue when it comes to tidal flooding. And of course, we are going to also have the heavy rain issue, and this is from WPC. The area in red, north of Orlando and Tampa, 10 to 15 inches of rain. The orange area is 6 to 10 inches of rain. That cuts off somewhere near Port Charlotte, Fort Myers on the east coast, and cuts off somewhere south, say near West Palm Beach on the east coast. And in the yellow areas, we're talking about 4 to 6 inches of rain. So it's very, it's a lot of water here because of the storm taking the track that it's taking and slowing down and stalling. Meanwhile, we're seeing rainfall amounts of as much as 4 to 6 inches of rain extending up into the Florida Panhandle to just east of Tallahassee, also in southeastern Georgia, the southeastern third of Georgia, the southern half of South Carolina, southeastern North Carolina, out off to the Outer Banks. So very, very impressive here. And we can also go a little wider with what WPC is doing and further north. And this is the 7-day rainfall forecast, which takes us to next Tuesday morning. And the 2-inch rain amounts get right up to about Cape May. Just to show you how tight it is, it's 2 inches plus from Cape May, New Jersey, southward. It's about 1/4 of an inch at New York City to about Trenton to about Harrisburg. So it's a very, very sharp cutoff here from very little rain to much heavier rain. And of course, you get it to the southern Delmarva Peninsula, down into Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. You're talking about several to maybe as much as 4 or 5 inches of rain being forecast. And again, a lot of this is going to ultimately depend on the track. So backing up, let's shift focus a bit on what's going on here in the Northeast. And of course, these upper troughs keep coming through. Each one takes us a slight step down in terms of temperatures. So highs today will be in a range of generally upper 60s well inland and 70 to 75 elsewhere. For Wednesday, we're looking at temperatures probably upper 60s to low 70s. Both days should be, I think, no worse than partly sunny, which is a good thing. Thursday looks like a really nice day, although it's going to be in the cool 60s, and same for Friday. And we're going to have to watch this flow from the east to see eventually clouds may start rolling in for Friday night and Saturday. But right now, based on what I'm looking at, I don't really see any rain coming up. This is Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, where the northern edge of the rain is just touching Cape May into Maryland. And with so much dry air around, that area near the north, a lot of that rain may not actually be reaching the ground. And then as we look to Sunday, this is early Sunday morning, you get into a little bit of rain there in southern New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania, but it still kind of holds off thanks to that high that is up to the north. Most of the heavier rains are across North Carolina and Virginia at that point, and Ian is just sort of meandering around as a remnant low. So kind of makes the forecast a little tricky over the weekend for the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states, and that's something we're going to come back to tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show at 7:30 Eastern Time. Weather in 5 is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website omnitruevalue.com. So, looking at the U.S. satellite view as we wrap this up, you can see where Ian is. You can see what's going on in the Northeast and around the Great Lakes with these upper air disturbances still moving through. Shouldn't cause too big a deal for most areas. And we'll have the latest on what's going on with Hurricane Ian and our thoughts on what we think is going to happen along the East Coast with this. In some places, it'll be a matter of if anything at all. At other places, there'll be a bigger issue. All tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show at 7:30 Eastern Time. So we will see you then.